Between droughts, rationing, and lawsuits over usage rights, water is a big issue in Oklahoma. But access to water is a concern everywhere. An interfaith non-governmental organization named MAP International is trying to address the water problem. I spoke with Dr. Ravi Jayakaran, Vice President of Global Programs, about the worldwide worries over clean water. Dr. Jayakaran, water is a big issue in Oklahoma, likewise globally. You were in Oklahoma to speak to the OU Water Symposium. What was the focus of your talk?
The focus of our talk was the way in which MAP, at least as one of the jurors, what I shared was how MAP International as a non-government organization ensures that water is available to the poorest of the poor. And when we work with water especially, we look at four things. One is the availability of water, the access to the water, especially in relation to the poor, and then water as an asset that might actually enable them to generate income for themselves in its use, and then how it's utilized. So the focus on utilization is in the area of ensuring that it's filtered and it's pure of impurities. So the 0.1 micron hollow fiber filter that we use is state of the art. It's done on the same principle as kidney dialysis, but with the difference that it filters water. So it essentially removes everything from the water to make the water safe. And we make this available to villagers.
Looking worldwide, where do you see the biggest issues involving water?
Globally, it varies from context to context. In some areas in the flatter regions, parts of Kenya, for instance, water is not even available. So they have to actually bring it in from different locations. But in most places, if you look around, you see that communities settle around a source of water. And so after a lot of search in creating new locations for water to be available, we started focusing on ensuring that the water that they already have access to is filtered and made pure. And we found that it's easier to target that and target a process by which we ensure that all water that they have access to is made pure. And so that's our target.
You talked about how people tend to settle around water, and they've done that for centuries. How crucial is fresh water to ending poverty and illness? You've also done extensive work in those areas as well.
Yes, I think it's critical because water is life. And without water, nothing can be sustained. So it's essential. And most people compromise on the standard of water that they consume. And this has been a major problem for them because they end up with, if you look in rural areas, and this is what we find, that 70% of the diseases that they encounter in those rural areas are caused by faulty water and cause gastrointestinal problems. So if we are able to take care of that water, there can be as much as a $30 to $40 reduction in expenditure for a household in a month, which is a tremendous amount. You're talking about households that have $70, $100 income. So they sometimes actually have to borrow money to get medical treatment. So when we are able to remove that, 70% of the disease burden is removed. It automatically frees up a lot of their money, which they would have normally expended to do other productive things. So that's been a great advantage.
We have experienced in recent years extreme drought in the United States, including in Oklahoma. Other parts of the world, however, experience drought continually, certainly in Africa. Yes. What do you do in these communities to help these communities survive where they have continual water issues and long-term drought?
One of the areas we're focusing in on is a technique called the micro watershed development. Mm-hmm. So that in most places, even though there's been a drought, the actual the rainfall is pretty consistent, the annual rainfall. And so what we try to do is use techniques such as micro watershed development. So you create a greater recharge of subsurface areas with water from actual rainfall so they can access it. So we've been using a technique called the sand dam. The sand dam is a surface dam where you slow the water down, especially in sandy loam areas, and you create a greater storage of water within the sand that is retained. So when you go up to a sand dam, it looks like it's dry, but actually when you start scooping in, there's water. So we create this so that this access of water is closer to where the villages are. So, women end up getting the task of getting water. So you make it easier available, more safe, and it removes the burden from women. So it makes a big transition in their lives.
Looking at poverty worldwide, what do you see as the biggest challenge? Is water the biggest challenge or something else?
I think globally this is going to be a problem in the future. And they're even actually talking about water as the new gold. And there's even a book, I think, that's called Blue Gold. And it talks about people will be fighting wars over safe water in the future. And it's already a struggle in the rural areas. The poor and marginalized have already got that problem that they face. And so as an NGO, we have decided in our next strategic directions, 2012, 2016, to focus a lot on surface water. How do we make surface water available to communities? How do we ensure that access continues? And how do we make sure that what they have access to is purified and good to drink?
Dr. Ravi Jayakaran, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.